Agreeableness, compliance, empathy, maternality, kinship. On the negative side, if it gets extreme, it's criminality, but disagreeable people are tough-minded. They're hard to push around, you know, and they can be a little bit on the callous side. And, you know, you think, well, is that a useful attribute? Well, I know this one guy who is just disagreeable as you can possibly imagine, you know, like, and I was watching him work at a large corporation. He was firing people because the corporation was shrinking like mad. It was having a real rough time. So they had to downsize. And I asked him how he handled the emotional stress of having to fire people. And he said, well, that he enjoyed it. And I thought, wow, that's not something that I've heard very often. He said, yeah, I mean, most of the people that I fire they've been useless, and they've been like existing on other people's labor for like 10 years and no one's ever called them on it. So it doesn't bother me a bit. I just think of all the people who they've been interfering with, and I think, well, good, you deserve to be gone. And you don't have to be a tough son of a bitch to do that, you know. You think about that. You think about that because, and I do a fair bit of management consulting. So let's say you're a manager and you've got 10 employees, and one of them is hard to get along with and not productive. And so because they're hard to get along with, they make everyone else's life more miserable than it has to be. And because they're not productive, then everybody else has to do their work. So then you might say, well, you know, what are you going to do about that person? And I don't know, maybe they have like a sick parent, you know, that too, because people are complicated. So what do you think? You think, wow, this person's in a rough place in their life, and so what do you do about that? Well, you think maybe if you're compassionate, you think, well, you know, they've got a difficult situation at home, they've got a sick parent, this isn't a really good time to fire them, blah, blah, blah. But then you think, what about those other 9 people? You know, going to work for them, that's not near as good as it could be. And like, they're working hard, but they're not benefiting from it. And plus, the fact that this person gets away with it is demotivating and unfair. So then you got to ask yourself, well, exactly who are you being empathic with? And this is a hard question. Like, seriously, this is a very difficult question when you're in an organization and you're trying to build something that goes in a particular direction. It's like, what's your threshold? Like, my experience, and I wouldn't say I'm very good at this because I'm kind of tender-hearted, much to my chagrin. But my experience doing management consulting with people is that if they have someone who's a problem, and they've been a problem for, say, a substantial amount of time, everybody's happier when that person leaves. Often the person themselves, not always, obviously. But sometimes people are miserable and hard to get along with and unproductive because they hate their bloody job. And someone should just kick them out of it so they can go on and find something, you know, that they might be half decent at. So, and people tend to be quite resilient. So even if they do end up out of a job, it isn't exactly clear that 6 months later that's worse for them. So anyway, so that's I think, disagreeable people are better at that. So if there's a rule, a disagreeable person will say, you abide by the rule, I don't care about your damn feelings. It's like, well, that's kind of harsh. Maybe.